Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Binford Chronicles. And today we are bringing you the news of the day. It's going to be good news and it's going to be sad news because the body of Ellis was found, the gentleman that had committed 2 homicides. And you're going to hear more about that from Chief Currey from the Vero Beach Police Department. I'm going to take a short break for the Two for America announcement. So stick around, listen to this message. I hope you'll join us on July 3rd to light up the nation with prayer. So here we go.
On July 3rd, for the first time, and on November 1st, we'll turn the lights on for every city so that every city with a person signed up will begin to light up the world, intending to pray 2 minutes for America. Each event will start on the minute, and we will be led through the app on July 3rd. Everyone in Christian ministry, and on November 1st, the entire world will be invited to push the Pray Now button and pray for America for 2 minutes. Then push the I Just Prayed button. And your city light turns red and blinks for 2 months. And then as people finish their 2 minutes, they all click I Just Prayed. The white lights turn red and blink for 2 minutes for America, all over the world.
All right, so let's hear what Chief Currey has to let us know about the discovery.
I'm going to read you a prepared statement, and then I'll do my best to take the questions that you may have. We're here today to provide an update regarding the March 24th, 2026 double homicide investigation that occurred near the Indian River County Main Library. Shortly after 7 a.m. on March 24th, officers responded to reports of gunfire and located Danny Uli and Stacy Mason deceased in the library parking lot from multiple gunshot wounds. Through the investigation, detectives determined this was a targeted domestic-related incident involving suspect Jesse Scott Ellis. Detectives and crime scene personnel immediately began an extensive investigation involving surveillance footage, witness interviews, search warrants, forensic evidence, and digital evidence analysis. Investigators later located a vehicle associated with Ellis near South Beach on the afternoon of March 24th. As evidence and investigative leads continued to develop, detectives obtained an arrest warrant charging Ellis with 2 counts of premeditated murder. Since the onset of this investigation, our detectives, crime scene personnel, and assisting agencies have worked tirelessly every day pursuing leads and processing a significant amount of evidence. Yesterday, on May 27th, officers responded to the 2000 block of Cove Drive after a deceased individual was discovered in a wooded area near a residential property. Through investigative efforts and confirmation by dental records, that individual was positively identified as Jesse Scott Ellis. Based on the circumstances and evidence observed at the scene, investigators believe Ellis died by suicide shortly after the March 24th homicide incident. Due to the advanced stage of decomposition, the medical examiner is unable to make a definitive determination regarding the exact cause of and manner of death at this time. However, evidence located at the scene is consistent with an apparent hanging. This investigation involved extensive coordination with numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement partners, and we are grateful for their assistance throughout this case. We recognize the profound impact this tragedy has had on the victim's family, friends, and loved ones. While nothing can undo the pain caused by this senseless act of violence, we hope locating and identifying Ellis provides some measure of closure to those affected. The Vero Beach Police Department has remained in contact with the involved families throughout this entire investigation. The families have requested privacy during this difficult time, and we respectfully ask the media and public to honor that request. We appreciate the patience and support of our community throughout this investigations. Question.
Do you guys want to hear the questions? You want to see what kind of questions they're asking? See if you get any answers. Let's do that.
Questions.
How long do you guys believe he's been dead for?
We're looking at just over 2 months since March 24th, and we believe shortly thereafter, the incident, walking back to his vehicle, us arriving there at around 12:30, finding his vehicle that day, shortly thereafter.
The narrative, kind of the fact set, or what you guys believed happened afterwards in terms of Mr. Ellis perhaps going out into the ocean a half mile or so, then coming back inshore, walking south, is that still kind of what you guys believe occurred?
Yes, that's what we believe occurred. You know, as we mentioned and shared, and you may have heard that there were some footage of a potential individual or individuals spotted going south. We don't believe that was him. But again, the individual that went out in the ocean came in around the spires and then was seen about 11 a.m., that 11:10 a.m. by a residential camera walking back south towards South Beach. That was Mr. Ellis.
Was he wearing the same clothing that was on
The clothing, as you know, we discovered some wet camouflage shorts and a T-shirt that was wet and sandy. So that was believed to be what he was wearing when he went in the surf. But the clothes he was wearing was very similar to the clothes that was on the Ring camera pictures when he left his home that morning. A ball cap that had electrical company insignia on it, local, and we confirmed that he was a customer there. A T-shirt with graphics on it, and then again, camouflage kind of cargo type shorts.
The individual that I guess called 911 originally and reported finding the remains, I suppose, in the bushes, that was a worker, I assume, or I guess I was told. How, I mean, 2 months for a body to be out in the open, dead, in evidently near a house, it seems a little unusual. I mean, can you talk about like the positioning where it was found in relation to homes or areas where the public would normally kind of be coming
Sure,
and going?
sure.
You know, that's a very good question because when I mapped it, when they gave out the address, I mapped it and it was close to a house. So that was a very good question. I'm glad he asked that question. So let's see what the answer is that we get.
We talk about proximity. You said out in the open, that's incorrect. Without question, this was not out in the open, albeit right off the side of the road edge. And I think we mentioned how it was dense in that small area. So Cove Drive, if you're not familiar with it, is parallel to A1A. So if you just go north of the 17th Street Causeway and you want to make a left into Riamar Bay that's ungated, just prior to Quail Valley, if you make your immediate left and parallel to A1A going back south, there's a large hedge, but that's Cove Drive. It's not a through road. There's even still a vacant lot there where a home hasn't been built. So there's just a small number of homes, and he went into a wooded section between two homes at the west side of the road and the property line. So you can see to the right a house, you can see to the left a house, but their property line up by the road, the west edge, was densely, you know, there had a lot of growth there. Large oak tree, palms, undergrowth, and you could stand on the side of the road like I did and not see a thing. So not in the open by any means.
Could you speak, was there an odor? You said extremely decomposed, and I think there's an odor associated with that. Was there an odor? I just think it's so crazy how no one smelled it. Just speak to, I guess, the conditioning.
Yeah, so I was there yesterday, mostly the whole time that crime scene investigators, officers were there. And depending on where you were with the wind, I smelled it, right? Even before the ME removed the body. The home to the right, looking west, we believe they may not have been home for quite a while, so that would take that one away. The left had already left. Were they there in March or April? Certainly possible. And then again, it's not a high volume vehicle road. It's, there may be some walkers, but it's really quiet. But downwind, potentially, yes.
So it's a dead-end street then?
Yes, yes. It dead ends into a residence that borders to the south of the gated Riamar.
Okay.
So you see, like we do have a lot of snowbirds that come and go. And anything like that can happen near a home because the snowbirds come and go. So, like he's saying, if the snowbirds have already left, there's nobody there to detect that scent. And we're in Florida, guys. We drive with our windows closed in our AC, and you're not really going to get a whiff of it unless you're kind of sitting at a red light there, and there's no red light there. And so that perfectly makes sense. But these are really good questions because I was asking those questions as well when I heard about it. But I started to think about it. Yeah, we're in Florida, so it would definitely decompose very fast. We've had rain, we've had dry weather. It's very damp when you're near the trees and in soil. You have that dew that rises up on the real humid days, so it would help to make that body decompose faster. But as far as someone not being detected in that area of town, it makes perfect sense because snowbirds do not stick around all year long, which kinda leads you to think we probably should have put a red flag up to keep looking more densely in those areas when something like this happens, and to keep circling those areas because something like this can happen and not be detected because the residents are not there. Let's see what else we can learn.
So Chief, would you say that this case is now solved? Or you have,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely what?
Absolutely, this case is solved. As we talked prior, we had immediately had warrants for Mr. Ellis if he was at large. Um, I've spoken to some, not all, in recent weeks. It's been very, very quiet. We felt that he took his life. Would we find him? That was the question. And for the victims and their families and this agency and community, we have a body, and we can close this in that regard.
Chief, you had previously said that you were dedicating massive amounts of resources, especially in the short time after, to trying to find Ellis, especially the day of the incident. We saw lots of law enforcement out. This body was only less than 2 miles from where Ellis was last spotted. Is there any reason as to why it took investigators so long to actually find this body? It actually took a 911 caller to call in for us to find him 2
Yeah,
months later.
not uncommon, really not uncommon. And I would say about a mile. If you drive, about a mile, because we talked about that yesterday. Now, if you walk from South Beach and you go down the side streets that are quiet, off of Ocean, the Tulip Roads, the Greenways, the Sea Grapes, and you maybe even cross Club and go through the golf course there, it's a lot shorter if you walk. But I think I shared earlier with some of you, we had a young man that committed suicide a few years back from Central Beach, mental health issues, depression, and we couldn't find him. And he was just off of Ocean Drive, just down the street from the main portion of Ocean Drive, in a wooded area where there was homes all around it. You couldn't see him from the road, and a landscaper found him. So this is not uncommon. We did extensive searches. We did have an individual that, if you remember, a young man said he thought he saw somebody that with a similar description walk into the wooded area to the north border of South Beach Park. We had canines, several canines and officers. We even had a cadaver dog from Brevard come in there. So we were up and down South Beach. We went where leads took us. We even talked about, he was interested in the water. And that didn't work out. Did he have interested in the river, right? And it wasn't far from there. But that's how he took his life.
So my next question would be, because this is the first time I'm hearing this whole interview. My next question would be, how far did you take the cadaver dogs? Did you take the cadaver dogs to other wooded areas north of there and south of there? And because I know they got a tip that he was walking south, but did they try any other? Because if you go up and down US A1A, there's like developments, then there's these like little wooded areas. There's another wooded area just north of South Beach where we it has an opening and you can sneak into the beach from there. You walk through a little wood and there's little uh there's sand shoes and grocs hanging on a tree as you pass through, and if you're, a native here, you'll know what I'm talking about. So those wooded areas there too, and a little bit further up the wooded areas. My next question would be, "Hey, how far did you guys go, and did you guys, keep looking for several days? When did you guys stop looking? Like, how many, did they keep looking? Because it was an open case. So what happens in a police department when it's an open case like that? Do they do their search for a few days and say, hey, we've already covered all these areas, haven't found it. Now we're just going to wait to hear if we have any tips. That would be my next question because I haven't heard that one yet, but we'll see. Let's see if there's any more questions after this.
So when you say evidence consistent with hanging was found at the scene, I suppose, so like hung himself from a tree and he just sort of had been hanging there for 2 months, give or take, or?
Yes, yes, yes. A tree that, low area, I think you all know you can sit on the ground and hang yourself. I've seen it in my experience here in Vero. So all you have to do is take away your airway, right? So you can hang yourself in many different ways. So there was a large oak tree that, you wouldn't be able to utilize. There were other type of trees, pepper type trees. We did find a belt, and that belt had his initials inside the belt.
And was that?
JSE.
I apologize. Was that attached to the tree then?
Yes.
Okay.
Were there any other weapons there?
No. A pair of black sunglasses that, if you remember back to the ring camera and the clothing leaving that morning, appeared he had them on top of his bill, if you will, on his cap.
The firearm question was a really good question because remember when they first did this investigation, they found a holster, an empty holster in his home, I think it was, and it doesn't mean that he had another firearm, but it was definitely a valid question to ask because a lot of people have more than one holster, and it doesn't mean they have a firearm for each holsters. But I thought that was a pretty good question.
Very similar.
When you say there was evidence that pointed to him hanging himself, was he hanging when you guys found him in that condition, or was
He was on the ground. He was on the ground. Again, probably did not hang himself at a height that's, again, it doesn't take too much. But with the extensive decomposition and the 2 months plus that has passed with the Florida heat, albeit in the shade, he was on the ground.
Chief, who discovered him? Who found him?
It was a group of workers doing work on the home that people weren't there. I think they were doing some Marsite work on the pool. And again, that's not uncommon. Some of the people we deal with in all different investigations are property managers of homes, are pool keepers, people doing work for seasonal residents that, some aren't here during the year, let alone seasonal. So when we have cases and we knock on doors and look for cameras, which we did yesterday, we end up meeting and talking to people like that.
Was there any, just out of curiosity, was he caught on video going into those bushes at any point in the homes that are nearby? Any, I guess, surveillance video or ring camera?
We're backtracking, and we talked about that yesterday too. And again, the investigators went and knocked on doors. Not many people home. Again, back to the workers. I believe the one home to the left, from what I understood, did not have any. So that's something that this is still ongoing in many ways, tying up loose ends, things we need to do things right. But we wanted to share this breaking news with you today.
Again, it was
And that's good that they have ongoing things because any type of closure to close it off, finding the family member, is one closure. But any other things, if the family wants to ask, it's good to be prepared to try to cover up those loose ends. So I think that was a good explanation of, it is closed, but there's some loose ends that you have to close up, and I think that's important to the family members.
Mainly the dental records that were what linked the remains to Mr. Ellis?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes, we were able to get x-rays from a dentist, local dentist. He had been to in February, I believe, of this year, and sent the x-rays, and in a matter of seconds to minutes, the ME identified him positively.
Down at Fort
Yes,
Pierce?
yes. We already had DNA en route, but this is much, much quicker.
Did the autopsy reveal anything else that may tell part of the story at all? Maybe how long Ellis had been there? Anything at all? Because you said that we couldn't determine the cause of death directly from the autopsy. Did it reveal anything else about Ellis at all?
Yeah, I think they're saying that because it's that initial autopsy and they have to finalize and complete their work. But we're also sharing with you that, there was a ligature, and we believe he died by suicide by hanging, right? So, but sometimes the official from them isn't overnight. So that's what we believe took place.
Chief, you and I spoke about this a little earlier, but a large part of this was the communication aspect between different first responders, yourself and fire rescue. As fire rescue believes they may have come upon him in the water shortly afterwards. What improvements have you made in the time since then, and do you plan on making any more improvements to communication between first responders in the county in the future?
Right, and we did talk as well about approximately 7:30 that morning, the caller called and said she sees a man going in the ocean. Well, I don't think it was until 7:35 that we made contact and were able to get the camera or surveillance video from the library to even view that, which was very important to what we talked about. So the timing of that may not have assisted anyway. And again, the FD realized it was that individual later that day, not at that time. They were in that morning. So they went out, and somebody even said that looks like a person that's a regular. So we may not even had information to share at that time because we were only just getting the surveillance from the library and conducting a crime scene. So I also mentioned on a couple of occasions that Lieutenant Roberts has, on his own initiative, already met with the fire department here in Indian River County and talked about moving forward, sharing information with their supervisors and battalion chiefs on information that's important, that's noteworthy, not everything. So we're going to do that. They like that idea, and it's about working and improving. And when any type of investigation or case or anything we do, honestly in life, what can we do tomorrow to improve upon? What can we do to make ourselves better? And that's part of what we're doing. Very unique for someone to do what he did, run right to the ocean, jump in, come back out. What we found yesterday, and you all know, is what we felt was going to take place based on our investigation leading up to the murders. We've never wavered from that. Fortunately, we have a body to confirm what I'm telling you today.
I remember on scene when you guys went through his truck, there was an empty holster left. You guys weren't sure if there was a gun in it at the time, or what was there any gun at the scene that was found along with him? Or?
No. Pretty much the shorts, the shirt, the hat, the sunglasses, a bottle of water possibly, or empty bottle, something like that.
As the time is, just to double check, as the time is going on, 8 weeks or so is going by, do you guys still believe that kind of the motive for the shooting itself is this suspicion from Mr. Ellis that his wife was having a relationship, I suppose, with Ms. Uli? Or Ms. Mason?
Yeah, again, nothing from our investigation has wavered.
Okay.
Nothing has changed.
Good for me.
Greg, if it's good for you, then I'm good.
Well, that was the coverage from Chief. And it's good to know that the gentleman was found. The family can mourn. They can try to, put this behind them. They can actually, say goodbye to their loved one. And, this is such a sad case because, you know, they all seem like they were good people. And sometimes life just makes you crack. Um, it's just really sad. And I'm glad that he was found. I had some of my questions and I asked those questions, and I hope this helps the family have some closure, both families, and it'll never be the same for them. So uh, it's just a really sad situation, a sad case. So that was the story for that. What I wanted to take you to next is I don't want anybody to forget about this. This is ongoing. Next year, there's going to be another vote, and I'm taking this from Bob Soos's interview with Dan Richey, the CEO at Packing, and it was a really good interview. I would love to have Dan Richey on. He does a lot, actually. Dan Richey, he gets involved legislatively. He knows about a lot of information that is very educational when it comes to farmers, when it comes to tariffs, how they affect the farmers, when how the legislature works with tariffs and other countries, crops that we grow here, crops that they grow there, all kinds of regulations. So Dan Richey is like an encyclopedia when it comes to the world of farming and legislature and how it all meshes together. So I would love to have him on. And I am an advocate for farmers. I am a city girl that grew up in New York City. Concrete was my playground. The fire escape was my back porch, and the tar roof was my beach when I couldn't get out to Rockaway Beach, um, and go swimming because it was so far away from the city. So I've always loved country life, and uh, I was dying to leave New York City. When I was old enough, that was my dream. I moved down to Florida because I had some relatives here, and I fell in love with Florida. And I figured if I can't make it here, 95 goes from south to north, and I could get to New York easily just traveling up 95. So that was my brave moment. I came to Florida and I made it work, made it happen, met my husband here, had two beautiful children. And I just love this lifestyle. And I am so appreciative of farmers and what they do. And times are changing so much, uh, exponentially. I mean, even the farmers, one of my favorite farmers to follow is Laura Farms, and I am so impressed with this young lady. Her family is a farming family, and when she turned 18, she started her own farm by renting land from her grandfather. And she explains farming so well that a person like me is learning from her from watching her on her videos on Facebook and TikTok and all the wonderful machinery that the farmers get to use now, and how that whole financial how farmers get the money to farm and how they have to produce to pay off their loan and at the same time make more money. And they got to recycle it every year. So it's farmers. I really am an advocate of farmers, and I would love to just be in a farmer's shoes for like a month, just actually learn and understand what they do so that I can have even a greater respect for them. I already have respect for them. These are a class of people that you don't find anywhere else, and they're tight people and they're quiet people, and they love they love the earth, they love the outdoors, they love the land, and they are so different than city people. And I love those personalities. So I was listening to Bob Soos, and I've listened to him before when I've heard Dan Richey speak on the show. Really impressive guy, does a lot for his industry. And so I wanted to share. What I did is I clipped some of the conversation, and this is in regards to out west, um, that ag land that's out there. There's around 25 acres west of 95 and south of 60. And I really liked this interview with Dan Richey. It took place on May 12th, but the day before May 12th is the St. John's Improvement District has a board of 3 members, and they had an election the day before. And when you're voting out there at the St. John's Improvement District, your vote counts. You get 1 vote for each acre you own. So it reminds me of the old days, when history, when you were only allowed to vote in the elections if you were a landowner. Well, out here, you can vote your for each 1 vote for each acre that you own. And the 2 largest landowners out there are FPL and Epic Estates. And I'm going to let you listen to this short clip. I think it's about, I don't know, maybe 8 minutes, but I want you to listen to it. What I did is I clipped it. If you want to, you can hear the whole thing if you go to Bob Soos's show. Let me see if I have his website address here. I thought I printed it here so I could share it. But Bob Soos has him on regularly. And I think it's Bob Soos. I think it's B Soos at podbean.com, because it's on Podbean. It's the podcast. So let's go to that video. It's a voice video, so you can hear. And I just took out the most important points so that you can listen to Dan Richey.
With Dan Richey.
Speaking about rain and drainage and floods and etc., I went to a very interesting meeting out at the St. John's Improvement District. We've talked about this a couple times before, Bob. This is a 25,000 acres, which is west of 95, south of 60. It evolved into the St. John's Improvement District in 2007. This was a legislative initiative which expanded the authority so that they could provide not just drainage, but flood control, but also infrastructure such as roads, conservation management, et cetera. So it was a legislative designated improvement district. Another one like that would be Reedy Creek, which everybody knows is now Disney World. That was a special improvement, St. John. That was an improvement district, just like the one we have here, which Walt Disney bought all of that and then incorporated it, and evidently we all know what happened there. They can pretty much create their own town. That's happened down in Palm Beach County. There's an area, it was a special improvement district west of town, primarily west of Loxahatchee, primarily a ag area, again, for the same purposes. And a developer, Minto Homes, came in, bought that property, and incorporated it into what is a town now called Westlake. So these things can happen with special improvement districts. I keep saying taxing district. It's now called an improvement district. So today, it's recognized as our area here is recognized as an environmentally sensitive area. It's got an infrastructure of a network of canals, pump stations, reservoirs to move that water to balance drought management, flood protection, and agricultural irrigation. So, obviously there's things that have changed out there. The ownership has evolved. That's one piece. There was a group, a Texas-based real estate firm by the name of Epic, purchased a lot of that. FP&L came in and has 5,500 acres out there of solar field. So of the 25,000 acres out there between Epic, which has 7,000 plus or minus acres, and FP&L, which has 5,500 acres. You got half of the district is owned by those two entities. You know, the people that bought this land bought it with full knowledge of what the taxing district was. It's about $140 an acre to $150 an acre. It has been declining. There's been prudent efforts to decline the tax. That tax is just to move the water and control the water, because if you don't, it's going to go back to what it was. As the Indians said, where water once stood, it will stand again. This will happen out there. So you got to pay the price to keep it from flooding. Everybody bought the land out there knowing that was the case. FP&L bought it with that case. They don't have a problem. They're paying the taxes. They understand they bought it as that, and that's what they will do. Epic, on the other hand, has come in and has determined that they don't want to pay that level of tax anymore. They also want to look at alternative uses for their property, i.e. development. And they have now made an effort to control one of the seats and potentially control the district. Yesterday was an election. It's a 3-member board. They were all citrus growers. As of yesterday, Epic voted its 7,000 shares or 7,000 votes. Out there, it's 1 acre, 1 vote. They ended up managing to have enough votes to unseat one of the citrus members. So now there are 2 citrus members and 1 member representing Epic Farms or Epic Estates that now has a vote there. Unfortunately, in my opinion, FP&L has decided not to vote their acreage politically and optically. They just don't feel that's the right thing to do. I disagree with them. I think they need to get involved. They are a large owner out there. They came into that, and we as a group out there were very friendly to them and worked with them to make sure that they got what they needed. But in any event, they have chosen not to. They've chosen to stay on the sidelines. So Epic has managed to wrangle up enough votes, their own and just a couple others, to have a standing, and now they have a seat on that board. It's a slippery slope. Next year, there's 2 more seats up, and if they do the same, they will control that district, which will be a great change, I'm afraid. You know, a couple things that bothered me. I took exception with the representative of Epic standing up. He was a little robust, animated, boisterous, a little bit loud, not something that any of us are used to out there in the farming market. Appeared to me, my opinion was he was a bit of a bully. He would not listen to the gavel. When the chairman tried to gavel him, he kept on talking. It was a little disruptive. I took exception to him lecturing citrus growers that we were dead. You have to admit it. You're dead. We have to change this. I took exception to that, so I was disappointed. But I realized we're not in Kansas anymore, Bob. This is something that's happening. It's kind of something I think we need as a county. We need to keep a very close eye on out there. And it's the future is very much in play, and we'll see what happens out in the 25,000 acres west of 95, south of 60. It's in play right now, and I would suggest we keep a close eye on it as a community. But it's a different feel and a different group out there that has different objectives than what has been the case out there since 1962.
Now it sounds like somebody needs to poke FPL with a stick and say, "Hey."
I've done that, and I had conversations with them, and to their credit, they chose. I spoke with them just a few minutes before the vote yesterday, and they stuck to their guns to not vote, but they are open to discussion, and we will be discussing with them as time goes on, because they they literally are the swing vote to make that could make that change stand down a little bit and give us more time to work with it. And the chairman has appointed a committee now to look further at the taxes, to look further at what are the future plans, what can we do to work together. I just didn't get the sense from the individual that was there yesterday from Epic that they care to do that. They're going to do what they want to do, and they're going to do it in what I perceived as more of a bully fashion. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really important interview that I don't want anybody to forget about, because this is in the future and next year there's going to be a vote. If if and hopefully Dan Richey, I don't know if any of us can, help Dan Richey have any discussions with FP&L to, because they could be the swing vote. And you really don't want developers to come in to your community and be on the board now and have full control of what goes on to that land out there, and influence a change that it doesn't really complement the community. We don't know what that could be. That could be anything. And if FP&L is holding out, why are they holding out? Is it really they don't want to get involved, or is it that maybe they know something we don't know? We don't know these things. But FP&L could make a lot of money if there was a data center that went over there. What if they were able to put more solar panels up? FP&L is a company that wants to benefit their company. So they're looking out for themselves. Why else would they stay out of the vote? It's really not political. If you own that property out there, you should have somebody on that panel, or you should want to vote for someone on that panel. Or maybe they're just thinking, I'm not going to vote for someone on my panel because now somebody is going to say, well, we're putting people on there to have control. Maybe that's it too. I don't know. But in any case, if w- we as a community can help to get the citrus owners to be in control, we should do it. And I'm saying, hey, Dan Richey, if there's anything I can do to support you guys, let me know, because I think the citrus owners, the citrus farmers, are going to do what's right for that land and the community because they love the land. We love them. And they understand the land. They understand what's going on out there. I don't know any of the citrus owners out there. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys so that we don't forget about it. We don't forget what's going on in Indian River County, and we keep it in mind of what's going on. I've tried calling out there at the St. John's Improvement District to try to get some information and some education. What's going on out there? How does it affect us here? Um, what they do out there, what's our participation in it. It seems like we don't participate in it at all at this point, where they can have 3 people on the board and it's only the landowners that vote because that's a special um, improvement district. And we also know from what Dan Richey has told us that can become a new town, which did come up during that meeting um, on September 9th at the county commission meeting. There was mention of that in those letters that Ehrman read and received. So let's not forget what's going on. Let's just keep our eyes and ears open. And if there's anything that we can do to help the farmers, I'm going to say it right here on my show. Let us know, educate us on how we can um, help you, because I believe farmers are very important. And Florida is, Indian River County used to be, uh, from what I've learned, had a citrus county, and it's not that anymore. My husband and I love getting fresh cow meat from the farmers. We love going to the farmers. Right now, we go to 5 Acre Farms for our goods. We've purchased meat out there. We've purchased vegetables out there. We do believe in supporting our farmers. So that's it for my show today. It's a short show. I just want you to keep that in mind. If you have any tips of anything you want to share, you want me to put on my show, let me know. It's Binford Chronicles, and visit my website at binfordchronicles.com, and you can reach me that way. Have a good evening.